Since his wife passed away 8 months ago, the children have never returned. When his wife was alive, she was the bridge between the children and Frank. The children would tell her everything. But now, the situation is completely different. The children hardly ever call him. That sense of distance silently pierced his heart. And all he wanted to know was whether the children were happy. Frank stood in front of the mirror. The huge sense of loss deepened his longing for the children. So, after a moment of reflection, he made a bold decision. He wanted to travel across the entire United States to visit his 4 beloved children. At the same time, to surprise them, he decided not to notify anyone. So, he wrote 4 letters to his children, packed his bags, brought enough medicine, and after one last look at the home where he had lived for 70 years, he set off on his journey. But he wasn't sure how long he could go, because before retiring, Frank was a worker who specialized in the protective coating for electrical wires. The long-term labor gave him pulmonary fibrosis, a job-related illness. When the doctor heard about his plan for a long trip, he patiently advised him to stay home and rest. He especially emphasized that Frank shouldn't fly, because long-distance travel could endanger his life at any moment. But Frank still didn't listen to the doctor's advice, because his longing for the 4 children had already surpassed the challenge to his own life limits. But Frank still tried to avoid flying, choosing the more gentle train instead. After a day of exhausting travel, he arrived at his youngest son's apartment. He had hoped to give David an unexpected surprise, but reality gave him a heavy blow. He rang the doorbell for a long time, his fingers almost frozen stiff, but he never heard any response. On the night before Thanksgiving, he sat alone in front of the door, waiting for his child to return. As the night deepened, Frank still hadn't seen David come home. Instead, a woman walked up to him, inviting him to rest elsewhere. Frank refused her. Frank sat on the cold steps, his long wait exhausting his energy. He finally fell into a deep sleep. Suddenly, a taxi stopped in front of him, its headlights shining, as if bringing a moment of hope. Frank immediately woke up, thinking it was his longed-for son. But sadly, it was just 2 children who had stayed out late playing. In the end, Frank could only leave silently, with a look of defeat on his face.